My name is Jerm. This is Germ Warfare, the battle of ideas. By the way, I don't have any notes because I've spoken to you so often that
Okay. Well, we'll just wing it.
It flows.
I don't have notes either.
But
I don't know what you want to talk about. I guess we'll find out.
Gardening.
Gardening. We could do that. I'm a real expert in that area.
All right. Roman Bystrianyk, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Thanks for having me again. How's everything going?
You know, you have been on my show so many times. I think you probably now in the top 5, maybe.
Do I get frequent flyer miles or something?
Well, yes, but why would you want to fly to South Africa?
I don't know. I'm in the U.S., so I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
You haven't been
Escape from.
You haven't been to the African continent, have you?
No.
Okay, you need to change that. You need to change that.
Well, we'll see what happens. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of places I'd like to go to, but
yeah, I mean, this is the ultimate thing, though. When you have a few choices, why would you go to Africa? But I will say this, though. We don't have much to offer, but if you do want...
oh, gee, I want to go now.
But if you do want a wildlife experience, there are very few places in the world that can give you that. Here, I think you can probably get that in Kenya and maybe a couple other African countries. I mean, generally, Africa is where you'll find that experience.
I know there's a lot of wildlife here in the malls.
They are pretty wild.
You know, I don't know what life forms they are, but it's pretty exciting. I don't really go to malls very much.
Well, listen, Roman, there's absolutely no segue here, but I'll just randomly go into what I wanted to chat to you about, which, of course, generally links to vaccines. And as you know, and I've said this almost every time you've been on my show, and I love saying it because it really is a great thing, but your work has profoundly impacted not just my life, but my wife's life, and most importantly, my son's life, because he's not vaccinated. Great. And my upcoming son, who is due to arrive later this year, will also not be vaccinated.
Yes, congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry,
yep.
When does he do?
September.
September.
Yeah, boy, so I'll have 2 boys, just so that we're clear.
Great.
Although,
you're going to go for the trifecta?
I'm going to wait until they turn 7 before they tell us what gender they are.
Oh, that's good. You can check under the hood, though. Yeah, you can look. It's okay.
Apparently, that's a terrible determinant.
It is. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
This is the postmodern era we live in now. That little thing under the hood doesn't say anything about the kid's gender.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it doesn't because you can have both, sometimes rarely, and all that kind of stuff. But generally, it's a pretty good indicator.
I would say, generally speaking, throughout history.
Generally speaking, did you say generally speaking?
Oh, that's a missed opportunity.
That sounds like another cartoon.
Man, I can't believe I missed that. No, but listen, again, Dissolving Illusions has been. I've actually got. Yeah, hang on, let me grab them. Because
vanishes into the void.
Because not only have I got the main one, which is the 10th anniversary, by the way. Look how thick that is. But,
I know,
but because it's so thick, I got that one too.
Yeah, well, it was all going to go in one, and I was like, well, that's not going to happen. It would have been this thick.
Yeah, so I've got the main book, and then I've got the book that's basically just all the references.
Have you paged through the companion?
Yes.
Yeah, there's like insane quotes in there and insane timelines, and just like, whoa, wow. And the reason I wrote that is because I had a timeline for the original Dissolving Illusions, and then I stumbled across it when I started working on this other project. And I was like, oh, I forgot about the timeline. It was already like, 40 pages long. So I figured, well, I should update that for some reason. And then it just ended up, I have all these quotes. Maybe I should put them all into another book. So I did.
The thing with Dissolving Illusions, though, and just to be clear, it's you and Suzanne Humphreys, the two of you.
No, I wrote it all. She just takes all the credit.
Well, she's the one who was on.
No. She's great.
She was the one who was on Rogan.
Yeah.
He gave you the cold shoulder.
Nah, I don't know. I don't really care. It didn't matter to me. It doesn't matter.
But
no, it was really a collaborative effort. It really was. I'm just joking around. She's quite brilliant.
Yeah, I'm also joking. But I'm not joking about the vaccine part, though. That's the part that changed everything. I was chatting to a doctor, a friend of mine, who's quite a normie, I guess, in the medical space. And unfortunately, I think this is the case with most people in the medical field. They don't really want to rock the boat too much, and I understand that. But he's open, and I said, look, I've got this great book, because he's also expecting a child. So I've got this great book called Dissolving Illusions. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it just looks at data.
Well, it does hint at it towards the end, but no, I mean, when I started this, I was like, a normie. I believed in vaccines. I had no reason not to. I don't even know where I knew that, because I don't remember being taught it or anything, but it was essentially, I know vaccines are great. They got rid of all these diseases, and we're not experiencing plagues, and we're not all dying in the streets. So that's what I used to think until I saw my first chart. Then something disturbed me.
Yes, exactly right. That's what I was saying to my doctor friend. I said, look, have a look through the book. I mean, this is data. This is all official data, right? There's nothing, there's nothing that's been manipulated. It's just nicer looking graphs, but it's all the same source information. Yeah. And he's absolutely, I'll have a look.
Yeah, and there's all the quotes, which when we wrote it, I insisted we just have all quotes instead of me paraphrasing. So you could just read what people wrote about in the 1800s and 1900s or even earlier. And that way you can just read through the quote and go, oh, okay, somebody said that. All the data is the data. And once you look at all the data, you can't unsee it.
I just want to point out, you say data and I say data.
Data.
No, but I've got the British way of saying it because of us being a former
data. I think I got programmed by Star Trek, So it was data, right? It wasn't Mr. Data.
I wonder how that came about, though. I mean, the British way of speaking, I suppose, is the way we speak. I wonder how you guys ended up with such a different way of speaking.
I don't know. There's always little changes, So I don't know. Things happen. Language shifts.
Yes.
When I was reading the text from the 1600s, it's like, that was really difficult to understand what they're saying. Then by the 1700s, a little bit better. 1800s, mostly you could understand all of it. Every once in a while, it's like terms like, what does that mean? So it takes a while to get used to it.
The thing,
because I'm still reading that stuff.
Yes, of course. But the thing I was saying to my doctor friend is, it's a very strange phenomenon, Roman. But we will know everything about our new phone, but we'll know nothing about what we inject into our kids.
Well, that's true. But you're programmed, or through society, is to trust the experts, and this has been going on for hundreds of years. So people always defer to doctors for medical. So they would, trust the doctor, even if they were doing things like the hot regimen and sticking you in a hot room and bleeding you and giving you mercury, and which we now go, well, that's ridiculous. But this is, you believe that's the correct course, because somebody told you to think that way, right? So you always follow the experts. And that's where we ended up with a lot of problems, because then the experts have power and they have prestige and they have profits. And then they influence the legislators, and boom, there you go. Then you have compulsory vaccination. You have people being bled still into the 1800s. The hot regimen, which was a horrifying thing to go through, where they would stick you in a hot room and keep you there without any water. And the idea was to sweat the disease out, while you sweated your life out. So they had all these ideas that they thought they were legit. And then once something gets embedded, it just stays, and you can't get rid of it. Even when doctors are writing about these things, it's like, wait, this thing is bad, and this thing, it takes decades for it to go away. And some things persisted, like vaccination. Vaccination was actually fading out by the end of the 1800s, early 1900s. It was, the popular support for it collapsed. they just, people were doing less and less of it. And the only vaccine then was for smallpox. And so it slowly just faded away until they regenerated it in the 1920s and said, well, we can have other vaccines. And they created a whole slew of vaccines. And they basically took control with all the new ideas, which was unfortunate because if it hadn't done that, we would have continued more on the health route instead of the medical intervention route.
But I mean, if you just think about it for like 10 seconds, right? Ignore all the data. Just think about this. Where did this idea come from that an injection in the arm can give you long-term health benefits?
Yeah, it started out not as an injection. It started out as, and this is in the 1700s, well, they wanted to get somebody to have smallpox. This is the original inoculation. They wanted somebody to have smallpox in a controlled setting so they wouldn't have smallpox later and, have it very severe. So they would scratch your arm repeatedly and put this pus from somebody else's arm who had smallpox. And sometimes it worked. You got really sick and they treated your sickness with various, different methods. And sometimes it didn't. Sometimes you just died from that. As you might imagine, you're putting pus in somebody's arm, right? And that continued on. And until the end of the 1700s, when this new guy came along and said, well, we shouldn't use pus from a smallpox person. We're going to use it from this animal and call it, cowpox. And so that became a big fad and it took off. And it was still doing the same thing. It was still scratch it onto your arm and put the pus in. And hopefully you would just have cowpox, which was supposed to be super mild. And it would protect you for life. Well, there was no evidence of that at all. He just made it up. This guy, Edward Jenner, he just made it up. He may have believed it, or maybe just a shyster. I'm not really sure. But so people believed it. The original tests were flawed. And so people believed those tests, and it took off, and it became embedded into medical, knowledge. And so you couldn't get rid of it. Even after the first few years, there were doctors that wrote about it and said, wait, this is not working. Yeah, I vaccinated 1,200 patients and they're getting smallpox. So it's not working. Didn't matter. They wrote about it, but there's too many people who had too much momentum. And so it continued on until the end of the 1800s, really early 1900s. And even now, it was still credited with wiping out smallpox. So, it's a mythology. Mythology gets embedded. It's hard to get rid of it.
You mentioned Edward Jenner. Listen to this. I pulled up some interesting trivia here. But in 1796, he basically coined the definition of a vaccine. And here's what vaccine meant. Originally, the very first definition: cowpox material used to protect against smallpox. That was...
Right. It was called...
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was called cowpoxing. But then they, cowpoxing sounds, not so great. So they...
Cowpoxing.
Cowpoxing. Hey, I got cowpox today.
It sounds like
so
a
they
game.
Yeah, really. They changed it up to vaca, which is Latin for cow. So they call it vaccination. There you go.
Well, listen to this.
They made it sound fancy. Doctors like doing that. They make it sound fancy, so it's more acceptable.
Well, in just under 100 years, or almost 100 years later, shall I say, the definition changed thanks to Louis Pasteur. And here's what the definition became. Right, this is now in the 1880s. A vaccine meant any biological preparation of a weakened or killed pathogen used to stimulate immunity against a disease.
Right. That's kind of the definition we have now.
Wait.
They changed it around.
Yes.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more. So then that kind of stayed through the 20th century. And then in 2021... Right.
Oh, well, now it's absurd.
Well, yeah. Okay, hold on. So this was pre-September 2021. So the definition officially was, according to the CDC, a product that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease, protecting the person from that disease. Then, after September 2021, just coincidentally, when the COVID vaccines were not working, the CDC officially changed the definition, and this became international. The definition of a vaccine is now, right? As you and I are talking right now, here's the definition of vaccine. A preparation that is used to stimulate the body's immune response against diseases. So it's no longer about immunity.
Sure. Yeah, it just changes, to fit whatever they need to have happen. Say we got products for this, that, the other thing. Well, let's use that. Let's call it a vaccine, because they know vaccine. The word vaccine is magical in most people's minds. It's going to protect you. That's the only thing people really know.
No, but yes, what's weird though.
That's why you would line up for that and not a gene altering therapy. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's a vaccine. Okay, give it to me.
But here's the funny thing. Or not funny, it's actually sad. I was talking to my doctor friend, and he said, but hold on, because I was telling him about dissolving illusions, and he said, look, we just need to clear something. The definition of a vaccine is not to prevent disease. Now, that was the definition, actually, of a vaccine. He says, no, it's actually just to make it less severe, which, of course, is now the definition. I mean, it's just so insane. So then my response is...
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so my response was simply, well, if you want to make a disease less severe, how about just living a healthy life?
Oh, that's where's the money in that?
You were going to say
that happened with the smallpox vaccine. It was Jenner said it's perfectly safe and will last you for life. Well, after a couple of decades, people had to admit, well, it doesn't really protect you for life, so we're going to have to do something else. It's called revaccination. So they came up with that idea. It's like, well, it doesn't protect you for life, but it still protects you, so we just have to do more of it. Well, that didn't work. So then it became, well, you're less likely to get sick and less likely to die. So they started playing with statistics. And so it had slowly changed over time until really the late, 1872, there was basically a pandemic of smallpox. And people were dying like flies, despite being vaccinated. Then it was like, well, maybe we're just not doing it right. Maybe the practitioners didn't do this right. Maybe it's not the right source. And then, so they just kept on excusing whenever there was a failure, because you couldn't get rid of the original premise, right? Because Edward Jenner was, held up as a, deity by that point. And just to be specific, they were still scratching your arm and taking pus from somebody else's arm, who got it from somebody else's arm, who originally got it from a cow or a horse, or even somebody who had died from smallpox that they scratched onto a cow to make vaccine material. So you would get it from somebody else that was supposed to be a vaccinifer, which, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was the source of your vaccine material. And so you would get it scratched onto your arm, and they would take this sharp knife called a lancet and cut, and smear it in, and then off you went. And you were protected. That was kind of the idea. Of course, sometimes you died, sometimes you end up with other conditions. Sometimes you would lose your arm. You would get these big open sores. So, as you might imagine, no one would do this today. You wouldn't say, well, I'm just going to cut your arm with a knife and take pus from Bob's arm and smear it onto your arm. And then off you go. No alcohol, nothing. Off you go. You'll be fine. And a lot of people weren't. But that was basically just kind of discarded. So now we can just kind of laugh about it. But it was pretty ridiculous. Later, they converted to a hypodermic needle, but that was later 1800s. So for 100 years, it was basically scratching pus onto your arm. Great. That's got to be healthy for you. Yeah, once you know that, it's like, who would do this? It's like nutty. But then again, who would bleed people to the point of fainting, or who would give people mercury or arsenic or strychnine? Who would do these things? It just sounds nutty. And those things sound really nutty. But vaccines sound great until you explain what a vaccine was, and it's like, oh, that is nutty. Why would anybody do that, right? So,
and I mean, I know that it's out there. I mean, it's completely left field, bonkers even. But how about eating better? Going outside in the sun. This is crazy thought. Yeah, this is crazy speak.
Well, yeah, some people realized that even in the early 1700s. They said, well, if you take care of yourself, the healthier people had no problems. Even Dr. Sydenham, he said, well, if you treat smallpox properly and don't put them in this hot regimen, because that's what they were doing, they put you in a hot box basically, then smallpox is a mild disease. And other people noticed that throughout the 1700s into the 1800s. People realized the healthy people were doing fine. It was the miserable poor that were having problems, or various people that were being treated. So, putting a person in a hot room and giving him mercury, restricting water, restricting fresh air, people died at a much higher rate than people who were just left to nature, as some people said. If you left to nature, it was a self-limiting disease, and generally you were just fine. Unless, of course, you were living in a sewer, which a lot of people were over those years. So really, by the end of the 1800s, smallpox became not much of an issue. It became a mild disease. And they noticed this. It was like, oh, well, smallpox is mild. It's like chickenpox now. So by the 1940s, the death rate the case fatality rate had plummeted by like 98%. Smallpox deaths became rare, even though vaccination rates were going down, down, down. So by 1948, when they got rid of compulsory vaccination, most people weren't vaccinated, and still there was no deaths from smallpox. So this whole idea we have to keep on vaccinating forever, we just, that goes out the window. But the mythology just didn't die. It's embedded into medical culture and societal culture. So that's why it's still around.
Well, the other interesting question about the different poxes, is that the plural? Poxes? Pox?
Poxes, poxi, whatever you want to say. I guess poxes.
It's the idea that they're all different. I've actually read a couple of articles that argue that they're actually all just the same thing. They just have varying symptoms.
Yeah, they had this idea that smallpox had morphed, or so that it was no longer the severe kind of virus. It was morphed into the weaker kind of virus, and they were afraid it was going to come back, so we have to keep on vaccinating. But during the same time, measles got weaker, scarlet fever got weaker, whooping cough got weaker. So by the 1950s, 1960s, all infectious diseases were not that much of an issue. Mortality rates, down almost 100%. So you go, whoa, why is that? Did they all change at the same time? No. And any microbe that's there wouldn't matter if you're a healthy person. And we had a healthier society, we had healthier people than we did in the mid 1800s, which was abysmal. And basically, you were living in an open sewer with the London fog, which was like tons of smoke because everything was being burned coal. So you were living in a chimney in a sewer with poor nutrition because there's no refrigeration. There's, you didn't have a good life. Most people did not have a good life. The wealthy did pretty well, but the poor, there was miserable poor everywhere. It was a brutal time to be alive for most people. So all that changed. Sewage systems came in, refrigeration, no more horses going through the streets dumping their loads everywhere. You had the cars, you had all this technology, electricity, flush toilet, all these things came in, labor laws, no more children working in mines as young as 4 or in factories. That slowly went away. I mean, they were still working in factories in the 1920s, but that slowly went away. We got rid of all that kind of stuff. And then, so people were healthier, they had better lives. So you can look at pictures of children in the 1940s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and they're happy and they look healthy and everything is pretty good. That was the big transformation I call the world's greatest health revolution. That's what we should have remembered. That's what we should be taught. And then we wouldn't be doing half the crap we're doing now. And we'd certainly be running around trying to inject everybody for every disease. Mm-hmm. That's absurd.
So what you're telling me, actually, Roman, is that the people who had the biggest positive net impact on disease was not the doctors, but actually the plumbers.
Yeah, plumbers, people, engineers, inventors, electricity, and all that stuff. And a lot of people were pushing for this kind of stuff. There was societal movements to have children to go to schools instead of working in a factory, which is definitely an upgrade. All these types of things. There were millions of people who were involved. The sanitation engineers, they were, instrumental. And, people even just sweeping the streets and taking the shit off the streets and all that kind of stuff. there's a lot of people were involved for a long period of time trying to make a better world, and they did a great job. So by the time you got again to, I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and life was pretty good. Not for everybody, but things were organized, things were clean. We had electricity, clean water. Everything was great. Everyone was relatively thin, not like now. We've lost control. We forgot our history, or we remembered the wrong history. So if we knew that, we wouldn't be doing anything like we're doing now with this medical obsession for everything.
You mentioned something about you don't worry about pathogens or contagion when you're healthy. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. So as you know, I've had a number of conversations on my podcast about whether or not viruses exist. I actually don't think it's all that important, because if you are a healthy person, then none of that stuff actually really matters.
Yeah, so I looked into the whole virus thing because I have people that I know that are really smart. They're like, there's no viruses. And they have other people that say, yeah, there are viruses. I'm like, okay. So I tried to figure it out. I gave up because I realized I didn't really care, because most of the things like a pathogen, like a bacteria, like whooping cough bacteria, there's a Bordetella pertussis bacteria, it can get in your lungs and multiply, right? But the vast majority of the issue is your general health. So proper sunshine, eating properly, as much organic, clean drinks, not stressed, all these types of things all work together to create a healthy biome. This all works together to make you resilient to all sorts of things, not just pathogens, but you're going to feel better. You're going to have stronger bones, and everything's better. And so if you're in great shape, then these things shouldn't bother you. There's always wild cards. A couple of years ago, I don't know why, I suddenly had no energy. It just hit me. It was on January 1st. I was like, Happy New Year. You have no energy. I went to 10% energy. I couldn't figure it out for 2 weeks. And then I was listening to a guy about using quercetin and zinc to get zinc into the cells. And I did that. And then one day later, it was 80% better. So I don't really know what happened there. It's just something just wasn't working properly. Who knows why? And you never really know why you're really sick. That's the thing. We've been convinced that, we do some tests and we know why you're sick. No, you don't. You don't really know, because you don't know what's going on through all your cells and your whole biology and your energy field and everything else. That's the important thing. Trying to stay healthy, not, we've over-medicalized everything. We've confused healthcare with medical treatments. Most of the health is in your hands to do the right things, or not do the right things. Then that's up to you. But the thing is, so many people do really horrible things, and then they go, well, I have the diabetes, I got that suddenly, or I have this or that. And then you run to the doctor, and they have a solution for you, which is not the best solution because you haven't fixed the underlying problem.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm making. So I find the virus topic interesting, but that's where it ends, because you can spend 30 minutes discussing and arguing, in fact, about whether or not viruses exist. But while you're having that argument, I've just done, a great high-intensity workout in my home gym.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it very interesting, and I even read some of the original studies, and that seems kind of kooky how they determined there was a virus there. That didn't make any sense to me. But I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. I just did an article on my Substack on the 1918 flu, and they couldn't transmit the flu from sick to healthy.
No. I've read that also. That's what did they call that? That experiment? I've now forgotten, but it was that he was funded, I believe, by the U.S. government.
Yeah, it was Rossino.
Yes, that's right.
They went into the experiment. There was 4 experiments. I heard there was 5. I never found the 5th one. That, we know how this works. We're just going to kind of do some experiments. So they got healthy people, and they took this. Really, these people were dying. They were turning blue. They were dying within hours or days. It was really severe. And so they would take secretions out of them and squirt them into the guy's eyes, down their throat, up their nose.
Yeah, they were soldiers, I think. The healthy ones.
Yeah, mostly, yeah, right. And so they convinced these guys that it was their patriotic duty to like be exposed to this. I would be like, holy, I don't want to do that. These guys are all dying around me. I don't want to do that. But they did. And they even did things like, shake hands with the person, be up close for repeated times and cough in the person's face and everything else. They couldn't make anybody sick. So what does that mean? It means that they couldn't transmit an illness. But what does that mean? Does it mean there's no virus? Maybe. Or does it mean if you're healthy, it's not a problem? Whatever these people were exposed to or whatever happened to them to make them deathly ill didn't transmit to another person and make them deathly ill. That was the end result. That doesn't prove there's a virus or no virus, really. I mean, maybe there was a virus and they transmitted something and the person's like bounced off of them. I don't know. But the thing is, it showed that if you're a healthy person, it's not a problem. So you don't have to worry about all this stuff.
And in fact, my doctor friend said to me that he has observed that children who actually are healthier get a far less severe form of chickenpox.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we've seen throughout history. So that's why smallpox became as mild as chickenpox. So you can see pictures in the early 1920s medical literature of a person with smallpox, and they have just a few dots. It's like, oh, it's not because what you usually see is the person's just like covered with pustules, right? That's smallpox, right? But that's not what it really was all the time. That was more like early, 1800s, during the 1800s. And then by the 1900s, you didn't see that anymore. It was just so mild. It was just like a no big deal. It just kind of faded away. So, things change depending on, basically your host defense system or your host health or whatever you want to call it. So if you're healthy and you're doing all these things, great. But, you have to do all the things. So let's say you eat healthy and you drink and you exercise, but you don't get any sunshine. And then your vitamin D levels are going to be poor. You really have to do all these different things to keep a real healthy system.
You've been working on another book.
I just published, so I was doing an interview, I don't remember with who, and we were talking about dissolving illusions, and it came up that this is a really thick book, and it's difficult for people to assimilate, right? Which I already knew, because people would tell me, oh, well, I started reading, I couldn't finish it. It's too much. It's too much. It's overwhelming. I said, no. And I had this idea for this fiction book, historical fiction book, and that really solidified it. I was like, yeah, I really got to write this. I got to write something that, for, normies who can, read something that's more personal and more alive, like real, not just a bunch of facts, right? So I finally said, well, I'm going to go do that. So this is last January. I sat down and I started writing. And I had no idea what I was going to do. Just no clue whatsoever. I knew how I wanted it to end. I wanted to end with the world's greatest health revolution, which, the pushback against vaccination in Leicester, England. So I knew I kind of wanted, that was the ending point somewhere. And then I was like, I had all these other facts that didn't make into dissolving illusions about asylums and all sorts of other stuff. So I was like, I'm going to try to fit all these things into a story. And that's what I did. I just sat down and I just started writing. Never wrote a fiction book before. I was like, but I'm going to make it historically accurate. I wanted to be historically accurate, so I did a lot of research. So I just started writing. I was like, okay, my fingers just started doing things. So I started with the first chapter, and from there, I didn't have a plan. I just kind of went along with the flow. And I would get inspired often at 2 or 3 in the morning. I called my muses. They would just like, I would get an idea because I was like, well, I finished a chapter. What should I do next? I don't know. And then I would get these ideas in the middle of the night. And I was like, okay, I'll do that next. And so that's how the whole book was written. I just kept on, progressing the story. The characters to me became real. alive, and I try to be each one of the characters as I'm writing, because they have their own different perspectives. There's like really not too many bad guys in it's just everybody had a different perspective. It's okay, don't cry. It's not that sad. And it was a lot of fun. I had so much fun. It was great. I'd finish a chapter, I'd give it to my wife. It's like, read this. Because it'd take me like 4 days or maybe longer to write a chapter. And I was like, I'm so excited. And it's like, she would read it. It's like, oh, wow, can't believe that happened to Victoria or another character. And it was a lot of fun. It took, I just took random twists and turns. And there's a trial in the middle of the book. I was like, I don't want to write a trial. Yeah. And then, but then I said, well, I probably should. And it ended up being 2 chapters of this trial that goes on. And I did a lot of research to figure out, how a court would have been set up and the jury system and all that kind of things, and how people presented cases and all that. So, I try to be really historically accurate, and I throw in nuggets of different history, like the London fog and the poor section of London, which was the east end of London, which was miserably poor. The west end was where the rich people lived, which was very interesting. It was only a couple miles away that, had people in squalor, and the other half was living the life of Hollywood. They were the ones you always see in the Hollywood movies. So it was a lot of fun. I really had a great time. I'm working on the second one.
What's it called again?
Tender Mercies. Can you see that? Think again.
Yeah, I can see it. I like that cover.
Yeah, I had my friend design the cover. I started doing something, and I was like, nah, that sucks. I'll let somebody who knows what they're doing do it. So I think it came out really good. So I'm working on the next one, which takes place 10 years later, with certain characters that are still around. Some characters don't make it, but
how long did it take to write?
Should happen. It took about a year. So it took a year. It was a lot of fun. The worst part was formatting, but I got in hardcover and paperback and Kindle. And
you didn't even ask me to illustrate it.
I have an illustration. It's so cool, man. See up in the corner there, I have a little inkwell. No, we could illustrate it. We can make it into a graphic novel. But you said you don't do graphic novels, do you?
No, graphic novel is not my thing. That's like asking a punk guitarist to play jazz.
Yeah. I wanted to make it into a graphic novel, but I didn't find anybody to do it. So maybe it will be someday. I also am in discussions to make it into a movie, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
But if you do have illustrations, it doesn't have to be the little one that you showed me, or a graphic novel. It can also be that the Roald Dahl style where you have.
Well, do you need a job? Do you want to do something?
I do desperately.
Well, we can talk about it.
I think I'm running to the end of my podcasting thing.
Really? Okay. All right.
I've run out of topics, Roman. We've
There's always something new to learn. I'm sure you can find something.
But I want to get
the book has been well received.
I want to get a copy.
Yeah, you're better off just ordering it. So if I try to mail it,
no, it's too expensive.
It's too expensive. It's on Amazon as well as this other system I use, Book Vault, and then you just get it shipped to you. It's much cheaper. Amazon prints it locally. So if I try to ship it, it's like
no, it's too expensive.
$100 to ship it.
But I do need to find a way to get you to personally sign it in the future.
Oh, that's going to be difficult.
No, not really.
I could do that.
Not really.
I could do it, on screen and just sign it that way.
Exactly. There we go.
That's cheating.
You know what I'd be interested in trying is if you do write. I wonder if this can work. If you write something, you scan it or you take a picture of it, and then I have it AI'd. I wonder if it's possible to do something like that. An AI.
Yeah.
No, because I would.
Well, I can. I've done this before. You just write it and take a picture of it. It's pretty close. I mean, high resolution picture. It's just like a.
No, but I was trying to think of how you put it into the book. You can't. I just realized you can't. You need it has to be printed on the page. So I'm back to square one.
No, I mean, I could have, you could print, you could print whatever you scanned, but, that's not the same thing. Who cares?
No, exactly. You can write something. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you can write something by hand, and then I just print it, and then I'll just use a little paperclip and attach it to the inside.
Whatever you want to do, dude. I'll send you an envelope. You can just staple it in.
With some anthrax.
That works.
With some anthrax.
Well, okay. If you like. I got some here.
I like to live on the edge.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, again, it was a lot of fun, and I think anybody can do. You see, a lot of the things I've done, I would never have thought I would do. I grew up as kind of a nerdy, quiet kid, and I ended up going to computers, and I got pretty good at that. I was quite expert at that, programming and doing engineering stuff. I never thought I was going to write anything, but then when I had to write Dissolving Illusions after I had enough information, I was like, I got to do this, even though I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it. I was like, why am I spending all my time doing this? But I did it. And I realized later on, it's like, well, you can do any of these things if you really want to do them. And, writing Tender Mercies, I was like, okay, I know I can do this. Just sit down and do it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, just do it. And I did it. I think anybody can do these things. And I try to inspire people to, follow whatever their passion is and just do it.
Well, yes, but it goes more than that, because the result of your work leads to people asking questions, sort of esoteric kind of questions. Maybe not even esoteric, existential questions like vaccines.
Yeah. And your point is? What I'm saying in generally, if you're passionate about anything,
yes,
and you're like, well, I've never done that, I can't do it, you can do it.
Yes, 100%.
You just have to put the time and effort in there, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there's also a net benefit of people enjoying your passion, because it comes down to questioning what you're putting into your child.
Yeah. The amount of time I put into that Dissolving Illusions, reading and going to libraries. I have binders about this wide in my closet over there. Just like filled with, old charts and old documents and statistics. And it's like, I became kind of nutty, obsessed about it. But I found it fascinating, so I just kept on doing it.
I've got a great idea for you.
Until I burned out.
I've got a great idea for your next Dissolving Illusions project. Go into antibiotics. Yeah, I guess. Actually, we're talking about, I don't know if we're going to do it or not, because it takes a long time to do these things, but we're going to do like a Dissolving Illusions for Dummies kind of thing, or as my wife's, Dissolving Illusions Simplified, or something like that, where you take all this stuff and just makes it easier to understand, a billion quotes and charts and everything else. So that's on the possible list. I thought that might be useful, but then again, I'd rather write historical fiction at the moment, so I'm working on the second book of Tender Mercies, so off we go. It's not really fiction, though.
I'm on chapter. It's historical fiction, because the characters are fictional.
Yes.
Although they're a composite of what I believed characters were like. So Victoria was, she started out as a 20-something person in the wealthy areas, but she felt like she was being controlled and repressed by societal norms. She had to behave a certain way, decorum had to be, all the time, and she was miserable with that. And then there's Simon, her husband, who was, very prim and proper and was very ambitious and, ruled the roost, that kind of thing. So, I tried to create characters that made sense to me based on all my reading. And so I don't know, what was the point of my story? I don't know. I just enjoy doing it. And so now the characters that are still around, they have their own new trajectories, and I'm mixing in things like Charles Crichton, who was a big, he was pro-vaccine when he started until he did his research and wrote an article for the Encyclopedia Britannica in 1888, which the mainstream doctors did not like because it was filled with charts, not charts, but tables. They didn't really have charts, and other information in there. Kind of ticked everybody off. And then he ended up writing 2 books. One on Jenner, a strange episode in history or something. I forget what it was. Anyway, it was very critical of the whole thing and basically called it a grotesque superstition. And so I have him in the next book. And I try to take some of the speeches and things like that, or actual speeches or things they wrote, that I turned into, some of the things they talk about. Even in the first book, so the protests in Leicester, there was a lot of things written down of people making speeches there. So I took that and kind of just dropped it into the book. So they're actually real speeches. By the way, at the end of the book, the last 10%, I have quotes and references for what went into particular chapters. So you can go and kind of dig deeper and say, oh yeah, well, I guess that was real because chapter 50 has this quote from there, from this reference. So you can look into these things and say, yeah, the book is actually pretty historically accurate, which is what I was trying to aim for. But you can follow up and do your own reading. It's kind of fun.
You've got so much vaccine knowledge. Do you ever get frustrated in conversations, though?
No, not really. At this point, people want to believe what they want to believe. And that can be about anything, right? Politics or religion or whatever. And if that's what you want to believe, that's your background, how you were raised, what experiences you went through, what things you read and absorbed, it created your image of the universe, right? Who am I to come along and say you're an idiot? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but
I provide information if it's good for you.
No, but when it gets closer to home, then it does matter.
Yeah, I've tried to talk to lots of people I know, my family members, and they just aren't interested. And I don't get mad about it. You don't find it interesting or important or convincing, then okay. That's your life. It's your journey in your life. It's not my call to make you do anything.
No, but
I just present information.
Sure, but when it gets close to home, like your child, then suddenly it can become quite heated if it's with your partner. Yeah,
sure. If I had a young baby now, because I did this when my kids were really young and I didn't know enough, and they got vaccinated anyway behind my back. I would be fighting for my right to do what I want with my children, right? That's different. But as an adult, you're free to make your own choices. That's what, I'm a real freedom maximalist. Hey, you want to go out to the bars and drink and do cocaine and whatever. That's your business. That's what you want to do. You're not harming anybody else. So, okay. It's self-destructive, but it's your life. You can do what you want. I would advise against certain things, but go ahead. Who am I to say what you should do, right? Sometimes people have to bottom out to change their lives too. I bottomed out a few times. I've had difficulties, and they may help me grow. I guess I'm going off the topic a little bit, but as far as vaccines goes. If somebody says, well, I looked at your book, it's a bunch of crap, and you didn't do this and do that. I was okay. Well, it's just information. You can use it as you wish. And a lot of people take it in the right way, and some people just want to argue about everything. So I just don't argue. It's like, okay. I don't worry about it. Initially, that wasn't true. I would get, as far as like health things, because I would do health consults, and I'd get frustrated. It's like, why won't you do this? Why, whatever it might be. And why wouldn't you read that? And then I realized, that's not my business to convince people to do things. You can do them or not do them. That's your choice.
Well, my wife didn't read Dissolving Illusions. She listened to it.
Okay. I thought maybe you just lay down the law.
No. She actually listened to the audiobook. Who narrates it, by the way?
So the original one is narrated by, I forgot his name because it was a long time ago, by a guy we found. I forgot how that happened. I can't remember his name. Anyway, and then I did the second one.
Oh, okay. So maybe she listened to you. I don't know, because it was only two years ago.
Yeah, but I cheated, so I used AI with my voice trained. And then
Really?
So what happens when you're trying to do this stuff? So I started doing it, and I would get a dry mouth. I would lose my cadence. I would mispronounce words. I'd get
birds in the
blah,
background,
blah, 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 and then blah. Not so much the background. It was just I would just screw up too many times. So I said, well, let me try this, and it basically sounds like me. And I had to listen to every paragraph and it was a very long process anyway. But I just found myself not able to consistently create, chapters. Too many glitches, too many things I had to redo. I said, screw that. I'm not going to do it. And at that time, I also had a bad computer. I was having problems with it. It's like, I can't get this done. And I tried to find like a human being to do it. I almost had the guy's name. So I tried to contact the guy beforehand. He never responded. I tried to get a bunch of people to do it. Nobody wanted to do it. So I said, screw it. I'll just do it this way. And that worked out pretty well. I think it sounds pretty good. But it wasn't my first choice, but that's the way it worked out.
Well, if my wife did listen to your AI voice, it worked.
Great. I'm sure it was quite good.
I can't imagine anything more boring than reading a thick book like that out loud.
Well, there's the other thing, too. I've read this too many times. I don't want to read this darn thing again. It's like I'm done with it. Yeah. And, when we first published in 2013, I was done with vaccines. I was never going to touch the topic again. I was like burned out. That's 20 years of blah, blah, blah. All right, that's enough. I had enough of this. Everybody just read the book and leave me alone. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it wasn't really until COVID that I was like, good grief. I felt like I had to go back and do it again, upgrade the book. And so I did. I didn't want to do it again. But here I am, still doing it.
Also, the other challenge is, if you come back a couple of days later to read the next chapter, your voice might sound different. It might be too early.
Yeah,
it might be too early in the morning, and you still got that wake up voice.
Yeah, I've talked to people who actually do this. It's really difficult. It's not that easy. You have to really have a nice soundproof room. You have to be in the space. You have to do your homework, make sure you know how you're going to pronounce words, and you have to be with the. I tried and I gave up.
And then someone knocks on the door or your phone rings.
Well, I made sure my phone's gone and all that stuff, and and I'm in my little isolated area here, so it's not a big deal. But it didn't work out for me. Couldn't do it. So I opted for the cheating way and used AI, which actually worked pretty well. They trained my voice in one shot. I was like, oh, that sounds like me. Holy crap. It's kind of creepy, actually.
I haven't listened to the audiobook of Dissolving Illusions, but how do you deal with all the graphs and the all the data?
Those are available on dissolvingillusions.com.
Oh, okay. So you just say go and check out on the website. Okay.
Yeah. So, and so it's that was a long process. I don't know how many months I spent doing that. Like 4 or 5 months. It's like, yes, I don't want to do that again. There's certain things I don't want to do again.
Well, listen to this, Roman. So when our boy, sorry, go on.
No, but you just got to get the job done. So that's I become obsessive. I got to get it done, even if I hate it. I didn't like doing that part at all. It was really, really tedious, but got it done.
When our little guy turned 1, we had a little birthday party for him, and of course, a whole bunch of other babies came round. And yes, the thing.
So he was a main vector of disease. Is that right?
Well, listen to this, right? So of course he's not vaccinated. He's never been to a doctor. Never had an antibiotic. Doesn't have a pediatrician. 3 babies could not come because all of them were either very sick or I think 2 of them had to go to hospital. All 3 of them are vaccinated.
Yeah. What's your point? I don't understand your point.
You don't understand my point.
No, I'm just kidding. I haven't been to a doctor in 14 years, 13, 14 years. I stopped going because I realized if I got in a car accident great. They fix you up pretty good. They're really good at that. But anything else, it's like, oh, we're going to do tests and we're going to give you shots, and the tests are going to show you have a problem with this or that, and we're going to give you these pills. And that doesn't work for the most part. It doesn't work for me. So I just stopped going. And I have the attitude is I'm going to live a healthy lifestyle as long as I can until something, goes wrong. Or maybe nothing will go wrong. Maybe I'll live to be 200. That's my goal. Live to be 200 and healthy and no problems. So far, it's worked out pretty well. It's because, again, we've medicalized everything. Everything has to be passed through a doctor. Every darn little thing. It's like, and I know people, I got an injury, a little cut or something. I go to the doctor. I'm sniffling. I go to the doctor. And it's like, why? You don't need to do that. But people have been convinced that's what they do, and I don't do that. It works for me.
Yeah, we went camping, and I accidentally stabbed myself in my hand with my knife.
Are you sure it was accidental, or you're just reaching out for help? You're crying out.
So it's actually this knife that I got right here. It's a flick knife. And
that's a knife.
And I can't remember what I was doing. I was cutting something, and my hand slipped and I stabbed myself into my hand, and it was a pretty bad cut. And we had to immediately go somewhere to needed stitches. My wife is medical, so she knew exactly what to do in that moment. We had bandages and all that kind of stuff. But I went to the doctor. No, I didn't go to the doctor immediately. Stayed overnight, but with my hand wrapped up in bandages. The next morning, we went and found a doctor in the nearby town. Mm-hmm. He asked me what happened. Told him. He said, "Can I give you a tetanus shot?" I said, "No."
Yeah, you don't need that. That's just knee-jerk reaction.
Yes, and I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah. I mean, if you put some dirt in there and then sealed up the wound, maybe you would have some kind of problem. But otherwise, you're not going to have a problem. As long as the wound is clean, it's not an issue.
Yes, but the average person will say yes.
Well, yeah, because you're trained to believe the authorities, and they're only trained based on their schooling. Just do this, okay? It's not like everybody often does research and goes, "Oh, should I really do that?" No, they don't do that. People don't do that. No matter what your education level is.
But this was an example of when a doctor actually is necessary.
Yeah. Sure. A lot of things, anything to do with damage, physical damage, well, that's probably a good idea. Mm-hmm. Some things you can handle yourself. You just have to use some kind of discernment. So that's what you do. That medical used to be in the U.S. about 4% of GDP. Now it's almost 18% of GDP. This is insane because everything has to be medicalized. Everything. And the grocery stores are filled with concoctions to, help treat the symptom of this or treat the symptom of that. This is all like insanity. But we're in an insane world. So in a healthy world, the medical system would be far smaller. Doing surgeries and helping counsel you. Hey, you shouldn't be eating donuts every day. Oh, okay. Maybe you should eat some fruit and have some vegetables or whatever, whatever advice you want to say, right? And guide people to be healthy, not here, take these pills and get out of my office and I charge you $200. So we have a broken system.
Exactly. And you would think that people would be healthier today with all the pharmaceuticals.
No, because we have all these other things going on, right? The pharmaceuticals, we have, endless entertainment. So you're indoors all the time. You're not getting sunshine. You're not getting, well, some people do. They go to the gym. Not getting exercise. So obesity is off the charts. You can see people are pale. They don't get any sunshine. They're not eating properly. So they're malnourished. They don't know they're malnourished. So all these things are, you got a really sick society. You can't fix them with drugs. It's never going to happen. But they try. Oh, take Ozempic. That's a great idea. Well, instead of stopping eating the donuts, they go, take Ozempic. Oh, great. Well, that's a big profit stream, but it's not making you a better person. It's not making you healthier. Maybe you lose weight initially, but maybe your entire digestive system stops working properly forever. And then what? there's always somebody trying to come up with a magic pill, and people love magic pills and magic shots, and they never really work. Or magic procedures. Oh, we'll just do gastric bypass. I've known people who got blah, blah, blah. See, that's why I can't do audiobooks. Gastric bypasses. And they regain their weight. They eventually regain their weight because they figure out a way to cheat the system because they still want to eat cannolis or whatever, right? So, none of these things really work, but people keep on going for them because they're promoted. They're on the TV all the time. Their doctors tell them what to do and do this and do that, and it's generally a bad idea.
Well, I've got my own squat rack, and I'm going to now go and do some squats and bench press.
All right.
But before,
you're going to tape it?
And send you the video? Wink, wink.
Oh, well, I'm very interested in that. Yeah. That's right, dude.
How can I follow your work?
I don't know what gender you are, though. So. You're female, right?
Yeah, I identify, yes.
Yeah, I identify as he, she, it. I'm sorry, what are you saying?
How can I follow your work?
I'm on Substack. Pretty easy to find, Roman Bystrianyk. And new book, tendermerciesbook.com or on Amazon. I think people so far really like it. It's a lot of fun. Did you read it? I don't remember if you did or not.
I haven't read your book yet.
Yeah. Oh, good, great for an interview. Didn't read the book. Come on, dude. Go do your squats. I think you'll really enjoy it, or your wife will enjoy it.
Is there an audio version yet?
No, I had somebody working on it, then their computer blew up, so it's kind of stuck at the moment. I was trying to find a British-sounding female, but this guy's a British-sounding dude, which was not my first choice, because this is basically the journey of Victoria, who's female, unless you think she's not. That's up to you to decide that. And so it's mostly from her journey. So I wanted a female to do it, but I haven't found anybody to do it yet. So if you know somebody, let me know.
Well,
I want it to sound British too, because it takes place in London and Leicester, England. So,
well, I definitely want the audiobook when it's available.
Yeah, well, it's a process. If you know somebody who can do it, let me know.
All right, Roman Bystrianyk, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Thanks again. It's been fun.